So, hello everyone. Welcome to my Let's Talk series where I share conversations with those who support families navigate their international life successfully. Before we dive into the topic of today, if you follow us live, please share your questions in the comments. And if you watched the recordings, don't hesitate to continue the conversation in the comments section. I'm very honored today to have Chryssa Oikonomidou as my guest today, and we'll be talking about what it means to be a home language teacher. So, Chryssa, please allow me to briefly or quickly introduce you before we
Of
start.
course. Thank you. Thank you, first of all, for having me. But yes, go on.
It's a great pleasure. So, Chryssa Oikonomidou is an early childhood educator specialized in multilingual environments, owner of Bilingual Mus, founder and COB of Pedokipos, and mom,
Yes.
yeah, and mom of two wonderful bilingual children. She is Greek, living in Denmark for the past 10 years. In another life, like she said, before becoming a mom and joining the amazing journey of bilingual parenting, she was a senior executive with more than 10 years experience across multiple sectors and international companies and startups. She has acquired a lot of skills during those years that are very helpful in her current practice and education and didactics. And she is proud to say that her high heels are now retired, maybe not for always, but just put aside, I would say. And her focus is on the only future that matters are the kids. So, Chryssa, welcome to
Thank you
this.
for having me
To this.
again. I am
Yes,
honored.
we're both. So let's
Yeah,
start.
okay.
Let's start. Maybe tell us a little bit more about yourself, about the languages that you speak. You're Greek,
Yeah,
living in Denmark, and you speak English because this is in English. So please share more.
yeah. So you've said a lot. I can add to that I am Greek. I'm married with a Greek man, and we have two kids, as you said, Hector and Victor. We are living in Denmark for the past 10 years, and at home we speak Greek and Danish or English when it is socially needed, when we have guests over, for example. I personally speak English, Greek, Danish, French, and a little bit of Spanish and Italian. I am a preschool educator. I specialize in multilingual children, and I act as a home language teacher, which is our topic today, at Pedokipos. Now, what is Pedokipos? Maybe we should explain what it is. It's a union for Greek families living in Denmark, and we organize educational events and activities for Greek kids in Denmark. Currently, our most popular activities are our interactive drama play events that are taking place mostly outside in nature, in forests, at the beach, and also our Greek workshops for kids 5 to 8 years old, where we basically teach the kids how to read and write, but in a playful way.
Mhm,
Now, Bilingual Mus is the exact same thing, but in English.
mhm,
And I'm also currently working at the Danish Børnehaven. It's a
mhm,
kindergarten preschool institution. I'm placed with the 4-year-olds, with a very diverse group of multilingual children. And I'm also a substitute teacher at an international kindergarten.
mhm.
So, more or less,
Yes, you
that's what I do.
yes. So you work with children the whole day or
Yeah.
the week around. So and
Yes.
as you are also a teacher, etc. So you have this teacher head the whole week. But what made you start the bilingual Mus or Paidokipos?
Okay, so I have a bachelor in marketing. As you say, and my background is in business. But as soon as I had my first child, Hector, I saw him, I fell in love with him, and I said, okay, I can't go back to an office. It's impossible. um, Also, I realized early on that I would have to be the point of reference for whatever means Greek for me. I would need to learn to him how to read and write in Greek. So I had this epiphany that if I wanted my kid to become what I would call Greek, whatever means Greek for me, all this responsibility was up to me. And since he would go to a Danish school, he would have Danish friends, everything around him would be Danish. So when I realized that, I studied preschool education and I founded Pedόkipos at the same time. There was at the time a Greek school in Copenhagen. There still is, and they're doing a good job. But I had this dream to build an educational program that kids would love. And I wanted our goal to be mainly that kids should want to come to us, kids should choose us. I wanted our educational activities to be more fun, let's say, and engaging and social. And that's how we ended up doing our monthly interactive drama play events. And Pedokipos soon became pretty popular in the local community.
Mhm.
So today we have 114 members, and therefore, since it was successful, after some years, I decided to do the same concept in English.
Okay. So this is then so for the Greek families, starting from what age until which age, more or less?
From 1 year old to right now we go up to 7, 8 years old, where we do for the older kids our Greek workshops for where we start playing with letters. Um, but I'm sure that as my kids grow older, Pedokipos will follow them. So,
Okay.
so
Yes,
yeah,
I think this is something that we can observe in many, like you and other colleagues of mine who started play groups and then also after school clubs in the minority language or the target language, whatever language it is, that they evolve with the age of their own children
yeah,
somehow,
yeah,
and then they adapt and they focus actually on that in order to give them the input in the heritage language itself. So you actually work maybe also with other parents, or are the parents involved, or are they can they leave the children and go shopping or doing something else?
So
What
we
is
have one more parent at the board, sitting at the board with me, but
Mhm.
the team of animators, educators are all either teachers or preschool educators. So they're not parents as such.
Okay, yes,
The volunteers working with me on the floor. I mean,
yes,
really doing the activities.
yes.
Yeah.
So it's really, really like a school, because we had others who were presenting as the play groups or weekend schools that were organized by parents, but this is more formal. So you have a curriculum, you have designed a curriculum. I'm going to ask you a bit more about that curriculum in a moment.
Yeah.
Uh, so it is structured and it has a certain purpose, I imagine, right? Because I mean, when we raise our children abroad, and we want them also to, like you mentioned before, to not only speak our language, but also learn how to read it and write it. Maybe at some point, we never know what we can do, but if we start on this journey, we want also to provide some input that is meaningful and helpful for them to function in both or all of their languages. So this curriculum is quite important, and we know that in some schools, maybe you can tell more about this, there is this pressure on parents to make the best so that the
Yeah.
children can become, maybe one day even be able to live in that country of origin. But also on teachers at school, there is the requirements from the country of origin, maybe. Can you tell us more about that, about the curriculum and such?
Yes. So when we talk about Pedokipos, we don't have a very we have we have educational goals that we are setting, and there is a curriculum, but
Mhm.
we Pedokipos is not as strict since we are a union. We have a VAT, if you wish, but we are not recognized. We don't even want to be recognized by the Greek government. And the
Government.
reason why we don't want to is because we want to keep the freedom of setting up our own goals
Yeah,
and going towards our own path. Maybe to understand better the challenges of a home language teacher, maybe we first need to understand the landscape.
exactly.
Yeah, number one, there is very high pressure on parents of multilingual kids to pass on their home language. I felt it when I had my kids, as we discussed, and lots of parents feel the exact same feeling of responsibility, uh, of passing on their culture, their language, reading, writing. And these parents are not teachers; they are not trained necessarily. Some of them are, but most of them are not. They might be very busy. They have full-time jobs. So one, we have anxious parents.
Yeah.
Two, lots of times we see kids being pushed to learn because parents are anxious. They need to send them to a Greek school or to a Spanish school or whatever, to the home language school. We need to remember that these kids, this that for these kids, this is an after school activity. So they come to these lessons, but they come after they had a full day of school most of the times. They have other after school activities as well that they choose, maybe football, piano, ballet, basketball. Um, because we are overachievers. We are living in 2022. So we have number two, anxious parents, number one. Number two, tired kids that
Yeah.
at times are being pushed to join the class, this after school home language class. And growing up, we notice that these kids reject the idea of going because they have been pushed and they are tired.
Yeah.
Number three, the minority language schools abroad and consequently the teachers are being pushed by their own countries or ministries of education to do specific curriculums in a certain way and reach specific milestones in order to get financing or in order to have a teacher be imported
Mhm.
from their countries. So they are in some ways, let's say, limited on
Mhm.
what they can do
Mhm.
and pushed. So anxious parents, anxious teachers, tired kids.
Mhm.
Number four, it is very common to have groups of kids of different ages. So a typical classroom in these schools uh, will have let's take a concrete example. 10 kids in the same group, and they can be from 4 to 10 years old, and you will have kids that are speaking three languages at home and some that are speaking only the minority language at home. Their level of writing and understanding the home language will be different. Their pre-existing knowledge will be different. Their developmental skills will be different. So their needs, everything will not be in line. And
Mhm.
when you could have, for example, fluent writers in the same group with early emergent writers.
Oh,
When you have this gap, as a teacher, you
correct.
don't know how to approach the group. You cannot be in 5 different places at the same time. You need to think of activities that can somehow
Absolutely.
work for everyone.
Yeah.
It is almost impossible, I would say.
Mhm.
So everyone is anxious and pushed. And then we have these amazing groups, diverse groups.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
And
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, there is one comment, I don't know, from a Facebook
yeah,
user. She said, or he says, 100%, talking about the challenges and the different pressures that there are on home language teachers or on the children, actually, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so you're
Yes, so the landscape, have we said, so we said everyone is
free.
anxious and pushed, and yes, and number five, as we said, sometimes these teachers that are doing these classes are being imported by the country, the minority language country. And
Yeah.
these teachers might be perfect back home in a normal classroom, but then they get in a situation where they're not trained to handle, they're not prepared for it sometimes. Uh, so that's the landscape.
Yes, absolutely. I fully agree with you. What I observed since I have children, because before of that, somehow we don't see what is actually needed for our children when we raise them abroad in our home languages. We look at some point, well, are there play groups? Fine, there are play groups, but then what other activities are there? And maybe some have the chance to receive some kind of formal tuition at school, when it's part of the school curriculum. But like you say, sometimes these teachers come from the country of origin and have other expectations throughout the children. They are not aware of what it means to grow up abroad, not having the everyday life around you that feeds you of terms and words and just the experience of the language and the culture. And yes, transmitting it somehow in a not so natural environment is quite challenging, and it requires much more flexibility, not only because of the backgrounds that are very, very different from each child in the class, but as you said, now talking about the home teacher that you mentioned, now in your settings, it's actually, you have a broad range from those who have maybe are beginning speakers up to those who can read and write maybe already. So it's rather like in a big family, right, where you have
Yeah.
siblings of different age groups and different language proficiencies.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
that's why I truly believe that if we want to overcome these challenges,
Mhm.
and if we were to find a recipe, let's say, to succeed this impossible task, uh, I think that kids, that's why we started Pedokipos, as I said, kids should want to come back to this group or school. They
Mhm.
should decide and choose to come to us. And to accomplish this, first we need to shake the system. We have had this discussion before, Ute.
Mhm.
The system needs to be shaked. We are
Mhm.
leaning towards a future that is multicultural, it is multilingual.
Mhm.
People are moving like crazy. Okay, we stopped a little bit with COVID, but I'm sure we will resume.
That's true.
So, in some cases, I think countries and ministries need to reevaluate their goals. I think, and maybe have a reality check of what's going on in these countries abroad, and train and support their teachers for what they will be up for the
Mhm.
challenge they will have, they will face, and make their offering, allow me to use business terms, make their offering attractive to the end consumer,
Mhm.
who in this case is the kids.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, they are the
Yeah,
target group. They are the consumer and the one who will need to implement what they are offered. So
yeah,
if what is offered is not implementable, even possible to say that, then
yeah,
it doesn't really reach the goal that is expected from the parents, from the children, actually from the community as well. Yeah.
yeah,
Exactly. So now I'm curious to know. I know a little bit of what you do, but
yeah,
what are actually then the resources and the programs you use? You said that you designed one to promote, in these terms, the development of
yeah,
intercultural competence, because well, language comes with culture, and culture comes with language. So that
yeah.
helps these children, and then maybe also the parents and educators.
Mhm. Yeah, so we do this mainly via our interactive drama play events, and we get inspiration from books for kids, stories, or real life examples that are happening in our lives, or in our students, or in my kids. Or so, yes, I was actually, when this started, I was following a team in Greece that was doing events in forests. I don't know if we have any Greek speakers following us, but they are called Παίζουμε κάτω από τα δέντρα. I could write in the comments the link to this group.
Yes.
They're based in Greek, and I got inspired by looking at their work. So basically, what we do is that we set an educational goal, then we build a story around it, or we use a known story and we maybe change here and there.
Mhm.
And then we go to the forest or to the beach or wherever. And if the weather is good, because we live in Denmark and weather is a very big issue here. And we play the story with the kids. I could maybe give you a concrete example so that you
Mhm.
understand more or less how. this would work. Let's say we have a goal, we want to speak about diversity and being different, talk about our differences, embrace our differences. Let's say that this is our goal. We could take a story, for example, one time we used Wolfie. I don't know if you know a book called Wolfie. It's about a sheep that married a wolf, and they made Wolfie, who is half wolf, half sheep. So we took this story, and then we went to the forest, and one of the educators played the wolf, and he was dressed like a wolf, and one played the sheep, and one was Wolfie. And then we reenacted the whole story, put in also interactive touches where the kids become a part of the story, and they need to actually do things for the story to advance. They do challenges, they interact with the educators. We that are the animators in this case. They interact with each other. They might do teams and do things against each other. We might use letters or whatever we want to use in these kind of situations. And all this happens in Greek. And since this is actually fun, this is actually playing, and everybody is playing, adults, teachers, kids, parents. In some cases, when we do it for the smaller ones, parents are with us. Everything is happening organically. So you see that even the kids that are our difficult cases, the ones that are refusing to speak Greek, they think it's not so cool, they start speaking because it's funny. I have to, and they are curious. They want the story to advance. Yes, so what I can share more examples if you want.
Yes, you can, of course. Yeah, there are maybe also this is now a fictional story. I understand. Do you
Yeah.
also use everyday situations? Because
Yes.
when we think about transmitting languages, we want them to be, I don't know, able one day to go into a shop in the country of origin and buy something, for example, like that.
Okay, speaking about real time, real life examples. One other time I remember we made the event bilingual. It's not exactly what you say that or to order something from a shop, but we have used the experience of my son, who was complaining at the time that kids at preschool, because he hadn't mastered Danish at the time, so kids were pretty rough with him, and they were telling him, "Du ska gå ud fra min leg. Du skal ikke lege med mig," and this means you should go out of my play area. I don't want you to play with me. And so he was telling me this, and I designed a story around this topic. So in this story, the bad guy revealed in the end that he was acting a bit mean, since when he was younger, kids used to tell him "Du ska gå ud fra min leg," these things that were told to my son. So our pedagogue actually said the phrase in Danish, and the kids, and I don't speak Danish in Pedokipos, so I was like, "Kids, help me! You know Danish, you speak Danish. What is this thing that the other kids were saying to the main guy?" And the kids were eager to explain to me, because it was such an emotional topic, so they would translate to me in Greek what this phrase meant, and they would completely empathize with the mean guy, and then we would discuss their emotions and how this makes us feel, and why we shouldn't say these things, and all this in Greek.
Yeah.
Only the vocabulary that was discussed during this session is priceless. Also, during holidays or important days for Greece, we come up with scenarios where we would discuss or showcase what is happening in Greece versus what we do in Denmark. So yeah, that's how we approach things.
Yes, absolutely. And it sounds very close to real life, which is what I hear from many parents. And I had the same opinion myself when my children went to some of these after school clubs in the language. They were very far away from what their real life was, what their daily life and routine, and the words that they were using were different from what they were then taught in these different classes. And I find it very very important that people know that there are different ways to transmit the language when living abroad, and that there are means, that there are systems, that there are ideas like yours. I like very much the having fun, you know why? The having fun, and to having a compelling input, quoting Stephen Krashen, of course, that also not only for our children is very important for them to foster their knowledge in the language, not only understanding, speaking, but also reading, writing, and everything, and also the interest in the culture and language, but also for the parents. I always think also about the parents, because we are sometimes the only person in their everyday life that transmits that language. And somehow, I don't know if this happened to you, we had this discussion somewhere else in the last weeks, that when we live abroad for a certain amount of time, our own language becomes, the foreign language for ourselves somehow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we use terms, terminologies, and we talk about things. We read stories, but it's not this this everyday slang sometimes also. But also we are not present in the country and see and experience and use the language as it is evolving and changing constantly
Yeah.
when you are immersed into it. So it's always a little bit like a copy of it that is slightly running behind, so to
As the
say.
years go by. Yeah.
Yes, as the years
Yeah.
go by. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So that is, thank you for sharing these resources, or how you are doing this, and I really very much like the fact that you are trying to motivate the children. This is the first goal that you have, that the children want to come themselves, so that they maybe even ask for it. When is the next class, or what are we going
Yeah.
to do
Yeah.
in the next class? So I understand that you are designing a little bit the curriculum. Are you also including the children in deciding what to talk about or what to focus on?
Mm. Not in our monthly interactive drama play events, but
Mm.
in our workshops that are weekly, and there we play with letters and we do things with letters.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, because then
Okay.
this is more like a class. This
Yeah.
is more like a team that is bonded, and then we know the kids much better. Our monthly interactive events, it's like you could have 60 kids coming
Yeah.
with their parents, so it's huge. we
That's
we
good.
take over the whole forest. So so there you cannot, there is a limitation
Yeah.
to what you can do and how much feedback you can take from the kids. You
Yeah.
don't know who will come. But to the workshops, that is more like we have 5 kids, 3 kids, 2 kids, it's more targeted, and then you can of course involve them in this process.
Mm-hmm. Great. And now thinking of other parents who might be in other places, and maybe even in remote areas where you don't have such a big community. You were talking about 60 children. What if we only have 2, 3, 4, 5, or something like that? What would you give as a tip for educators and parents and caregivers about involving children, setting this kind of home language classes up?
Okay, so for me, the amount of children doesn't really matter. You can have the
Mhm.
same goal even if you have only your kid.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so for me, this doesn't matter. I would give the same tips no matter how many kids one is addressing. For educators, I would say know your target, recognize the complexity of the situation, and make it your priority to teach in a fun way, in a fun, engaging, social way. It should be our goal that these kids won't give up uh, when they will get to decide, because at some point the kids decide which activities they want, what they don't want, and if you push the kids, they will just leave you eventually. We should be creative. We should get out of the classroom, make it interesting, go to museums, I don't know, go to the forest, play, be playful. We can find nowadays, especially with internet, we can find ideas everywhere on groups, blogs, Instagram. Another good tip that I have is network. ask your colleagues, find colleagues abroad that are doing the same things and ask for tips, ideas, best practices. There are people out there that are doing great things, and we don't need to reinvent the wheel every time. Uh, so maybe somewhere in the world, someone is struggling with the exact same challenges you have.
Mhm.
There is a Facebook group, we could say, that is recently created for home and language teachers abroad. So we are trying there to share best practices. Join this
Mhm.
group.
Yes.
If you are handling preschool kids up to 6, 7 years old, I would say try using a puppet if you are not doing it already. Puppets work. We are saying this a
Mhm.
lot everywhere we go.
Yes.
Use puppets, they are your friends. And for parents, I would say, well, you're also very equipped to give tips to parents. But I
Yes.
would say, and I think I'm sure you will agree with me, set your goals in regards to each language your kids will have in their lives and the fluency level you would like your kids to have in each language, and be realistic
Mhm.
when you're setting these goals, because um, language equals exposure, and you need to see your time, your husband's time, how much time, what language are you going to speak to your kids? Do you have the
Mhm.
exposure needed for your kids to reach the fluency level you hope for them to have? Then be ready to adjust when needed, because
Mhm.
life happens and we need to be flexible and not to rush on ourselves.
Mhm.
Then I would say again, network.
Mhm.
Like I said, with the educators, the parents can also network and find other families that are speaking the home language, and or find groups on Facebook that they can join, like I don't
Mhm.
know, Greek parents living in Copenhagen, for example, and join their events if they are doing events. Find uh, places like Pedokipos, or join the home language school.
Mhm.
Yes, ask their embassy.
Yeah.
If they can't find anything, the embassies usually know some of these, I don't know, activities, groups,
Mhm.
schools. And then don't stress too much. I think we are stressing a lot. Multilingualism is a gift. It might be challenging for the parents and the kids at times, but it might help us to remember that multilingual people enjoy several advantages.
Mhm.
So whenever we feel that, oh my God, that's overwhelming, just remember that your kids will have enriched cognitive control and and improved metalinguistic awareness, and they will have
Mhm.
better memory, and I could go on and on
And
and
on
on.
and on. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yes, this is it's actually to be and stay encouraged and going ahead with that. And also when the children, you mentioned that before at the beginning actually about maybe children who come into this group and they are a bit reluctant or they don't feel that confident in that language yet, either because they're very young or because their exposure so far was not giving them the tools, so to say, the words
Hmm.
and the fluency that is required in such a setting. So I can imagine that um, that there are also children who are a little bit more shy for different reasons, for the reason that they are not that fluent yet, or just because they are more shy and more
Yeah.
introvert or whatever. But what I really like in your approach also with this play with the drama and setting up certain situations, social or everyday situations, is very helpful also for these children, right? What is your experience with that?
Actually, this interactive drama play, I think it works very, very well with shy introverted kids,
Mhm.
because, as we said, it's playtime, it's fun, and as I said before, everything happens organically.
Mhm.
So they are just speaking before they even realizing it. They're just speaking in their home language.
Yes.
So you see them thriving in these kind of situations.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah. And
it's a very good fit for them, this
y-
activity.
yes, absolutely. And I can imagine. I mean, I liked very much doing role plays with the children when they were younger, and it was a very good way also to get off steam sometimes, right?
Yeah,
Or they can be silly, and we can be silly as parents.
yeah,
I
yeah,
really enjoy that as a parent, or
yeah, yeah, yeah,
angry, express the emotions and frustrations through the character that you're playing. So if then all of a sudden I'm the child, yes, who is, oh, I don't want to eat that, or I don't want to do that, and the child is the adult, it's very nice to see how these dynamics then that change help also our children to get acquainted and also to use maybe our language, right? And then you hear your child saying the same thing that you are
yeah.
saying, which is very much empowering also, I think, for the children, and it
Of course.
allows them to
And not
experience.
Yeah, and when you think, at least what we do, since it's theater, but it's not really theater, because we
Mhm.
don't have a stage.
No.
The stage is the forest, so
Yes.
we are all at the forest, and suddenly there is a fairy popping up, which is a good fairy, and a bad witch that is the bad witch, and then you see that when as the story evolves, the kids really want to protect the good fairy from the bad witch, for example, and then they will feel the need to speak, to say stop to them, and you see them speaking more and more and more in a very easy and organic way.
Yes, a very natural
Yeah,
way, like it
yeah,
would be on a playground or with a
yeah.
sibling or in any other kind. But sometimes our children don't have siblings or have a sibling that is much older or much younger, and so having this opportunity is very very helpful. Yes.
Mm.
Um, Now we are all getting a little bit out of the situation, more or less. Let's cross our fingers, touch wood, and everything. But how was it possible, or how is it possible to get our children motivated in times like COVID or with these restrictions that we had? You said that you were meeting, or you are meeting outdoors, which is great, and it helps in this kind of situation. What is your experience now in the last 2 years, or what are you thinking might change in the future? I hope everything will be better, but
Yeah.
tell me.
Well, eh, um, be, prior to COVID, we were in winter. We were going in. Right now, we have extended our tolerance in the cold weather, and it worked. It worked well, and so it was nice to be out even more than we did before. But let's be honest, we struggled a lot, I think all of us, with COVID, especially on how to engage with the kids online.
Yeah.
That's not an easy thing to do, especially when, again, they had some of them, the older ones, they had homeschool online. And so, yes, as I said, we have kids from 1 up to 7, 8 years old.
Mhm.
What we launched during quarantine times 2 years ago was our live sessions. So we started doing live session on our Facebook group, and we would initially in each session we would sing name songs and had parents typing the names of their kids so that the kid would hear his name and be happy about it. And we just did our usual drama play sessions, but in a digital way. We even dressed like Santa Claus and had Xmas yoga online with the kids. Recently, we also winter that we all kind of closed down, let's say. We made a story about a magic land in which fruits and vegetables can talk. Then we had a debate between our three candidates, like Mrs. Potato and Mr. Carrot and Mrs. Pepper. And at the end, the kids voted online live. So we got to discuss terms like democracy, freedom. Yeah, so we were creative. Another thing we did that was also nice, I find, is we approached authors of children books in Greek, and we had story read alouds followed by drama play sessions based on the story. We even did it simultaneously one time, where the author would read a page of his book and then we would reenact it and make the kids stand up from their couches and pretend to be a lion, for example, or whatever the story would say. We tried to be silly and playful and played a lot of games during this live session. So, for sure, it is not something easy. And I would urge all fellow teachers to join this home and language, uh, home
Facebook.
and minority language teachers abroad Facebook group that we have created and share their best practices, because we're all swimming in deep
This,
waters without guidelines, without anything, any help. So we should help each other and share our ideas, I think.
absolutely, yes. I second that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've seen also here in the Netherlands there are many of these groups that try to connect, and some of them have an act work, but not all of them. So I really appreciate that you formed this group and that you created this group to go also beyond borders and maybe see
Yeah.
what other families who are, or the home language teachers around the world are doing in the different settings, and what works, what doesn't work, or what yes, just to exchange the experience that we
Mhm.
make around the world. And that also reflects a little bit how what I mentioned before, this need to keep it alive, to keep it
Yeah.
alive in all senses, and to involve all senses. When I first heard about how you are doing these sessions, I want to call them like that, out in the nature, taking wood sticks and things and playing and involving the imagination, letting children move, etc. I couldn't but think about Maria Montessori's approach and others. I know that there are others that are going in the same direction, but that involves all the senses of the child, not only the learning of how to read and write sitting down after school,
Yeah.
which is not very, very enticing. It's not a compelling situation for our children.
Yeah.
And not for us either. I mean, also the teachers don't really find it very nice to have to ask this to the children. Great, yes. We will put maybe the link to the Facebook group in the chat as well. Is there
Yeah.
anything that you would like to add to this? Like the 3 tips? Go ahead. You mentioned already some of them,
Yeah.
but
I think we have mentioned everything. Just
mhm,
maybe I would say to everyone, be proud for every step, as we say in this pitch project that we have met, me and you.
mhm,
And because it is a miracle what these little brains are
come
doing.
back to it. Yeah, I'm coming back.
Yeah. Yes, and hang in there, be creative, be on your feet always, smile, and keep moving.
Smile, keep moving, and keep on having fun yourself, enjoying it
Yeah,
yourself, right? Because
yeah,
when we enjoy our language, our children will say, oh, that, if it's so fun and nice, I want to be part of it, instead
yeah.
of passing on the language in a way that it needs to be like that, or the child needs to attain a certain level of fluency or of proficiency in certain ways.
The kids have this magical sense, they can sense it. If we are stressed, if we are pushed, if we are anxious, they will sense it and they will also don't like what they're doing. If they see that
Absolutely.
you are like, oh my God, I need to teach them my letters, you have to learn the letters. Then the child immediately will go into panic mode, something's happening, alarm, alarm. So
Yes,
just relax, enjoy it, and be creative.
yes,
Have fun
absolutely.
with it.
Yes, have a lots of fun. And what I also would like to, as we were talking about these play, I come back to the play all the time. I mean, I like to play. Maybe I would like to stay a child forever, but with these um, enacting everyday situations, it has also a great advantage if you can do this in a group with other children and other people who speak that language. I don't know, like pretending to talk on the phone, or pretending to talk on the screen with grandma and grandpa and trying to figure out how to do that. This is an amazing way because when we are on the screen with our family, we say, "Oh, how are you? I'm fine. What was your day? How was your week?" And very often we run out of topics maybe. But if we know, or we think about what we could tell them and how we could engage with them, also in role plays, for example, that can help quite a lot. Also, then once our children are in that situation, to say, "Oh, we were talking with Ken or whoever about
Yeah.
this," and connect this way, or enacting a visit by the doctor, or yes, going to the supermarket. I know you're having other kind of topics, but it's something that I take away from our
Yeah,
our
yeah. And
discussion this
at home,
morning.
you can always do this as parents. I mean, okay,
Also,
you
yes.
don't have to create the whole story, and you don't have the actors. You're not there,
No,
but
but but you have the puppets, right? You have your puppet.
yeah,
Do you
you
have
have
a specific?
puppets. You have your, as you said, everyday situations. You can reenact. You have cars. You can be creative and do whatever, and follow the interests of the kid. Always.
Yes, absolutely. There is no limit to any imagination, neither the one of the parents nor the one of the children. And I must say, I get inspired by the children very often, because they can come up with the silliest
Yeah.
ideas, and
Yeah.
that's amazing to see.
Yeah.
So, Chryssa, I think everyone is at lunchtime, at least in my time
Yes.
zone. So we don't have any other comments. We had Ricky, who was joining us at the beginning. Hi guys, I'm teaching shortly, but I look forward to watching this later. Thank you, Ricky, for coming on screen and
Yeah.
following us at the beginning. I hope you will come back later. And we had several Facebook users that were saying that's amazing, Chryssa, and saying just hi to both of us. I guess it's someone who knows us. So
Yeah.
let's just close it like this, maybe, and with some notes of encouragement, to have fun all together and to continue transmitting the languages, no matter what language it is. It can be,
Yes.
yes. Oh, I really love this session. Let's get this one as well.
Well, thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you, everybody who could join us, and thank you, everyone who is going to take the time to watch this video. Please leave the comments in the comment section on YouTube or on Facebook. We are happy to continue this conversation and to help you with whatever you wish to get help with. Thank you very, very much, Chryssa, for taking the time and for sharing your knowledge and experience with us this morning, this
Thank you for
noon,
the space
actually.
and the time. And it's always my pleasure to talk to you and with
Oh.
you.
It's neutral. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I hope to see you back soon. Maybe we talk about something different then.
Yes, anytime, Ute.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.